Good morning, everyone. I was wondering, like being the first one to present after a nice, entertaining, heavy night, is it harder on the audience or on the presenter? Well, we'll find out. So it's an honor to be here at the 30th anniversary of LINX, and I hope I can bring some fresh of breath air and talk about Africa, the potential in Africa, and the exciting work that we're doing in Africa, of course, together with LINX. So I run a data center in Kenya. We are the newest kid on the block. We're the fourth entrant in the market, but we are already the largest in East and Central Africa. And I'm proud to say that we were the first partner of LINX. We opened exactly a year ago. And my claim to fame is when we opened a year ago. It happened to be when King Charles visited our country. It was his first visit outside the UK once after becoming king, and he chose Kenya because that's where also his mother was coronated, the queen. And we were one of the 5 companies chosen to present our innovation, and we had Michael Hoti from LINX also present. So we did that launch together. So that was quite nice. Talking about Africa, and I don't know, is there anyone here who's working closely with Africa? Maybe you can put your hand up. I know I saw the LINX guys, obviously. But if we look 20 years ahead, I know we're celebrating the 30-year anniversary, but in the next 20 years, 30 years, where will Africa stand in terms of demographics? And I think it's quite clear in terms of the working population. As many of 70% of the global workforce is likely to come from Africa. We need to start somewhere, and hence the work that we're doing in Africa. And in terms of also, if you look at global growth, Africa has been outperforming for the last few years in terms of the GDP growth, and we expect that to continue. So that's the importance of our continent going forward. However, when you look at the sort of financial, the corporate performance that we've seen in Africa, that's actually lagged quite behind. And why is that? I think it's a couple of things. One is that the customer value is much lower there compared to the Western markets because of the poverty line, etc. But on the other hand, the cost to serve customers is also high. It's hard to do business in Africa. On the other hand, there are some good disruptions happening. I'm quite fortunate to have been working in Africa for the last 15 years. I lived half my life here, started my career with telco called Orange, and then when they acquired the incumbent in Kenya, that's when I moved back. So in the last 15, 20 years, some of the innovations that we've seen, we've actually leapfrogged. When I moved to Kenya, I never even needed to have a landline. We went straight to mobile. No one has landlines in our country. 2007 was when mobile money was born, and also proud to say that the birthplace for mobile money was in Kenya, and M-Pesa is such a big phenomenon. 80% of the country's GDP is transacted using the mobile phone. It's quite a cashless society, and M-Pesa does more transactions in just one country than, for example, Western Union does globally. And then we've seen other innovations as well. The big techs have come there, talking about workforce and talent. So we have quite a good education system. in East Africa, including Kenya. We have a very smart tech talent that's also coming out of there. And Africa has an opportunity to play the salary arbitrage as well, because over the last 20 years, we've seen a lot of outsourcing done to Southeast Asia, countries like India. But with the salary inflation, that's becoming quite expensive. But we're having very smart, affordable tech talent. And in fact, before I joined the data center a year ago, I've been running the leading ed tech in Kenya, a company called Moringa School. We're the market leader in training software developers, data scientists, and then placing them into jobs. There are other companies like Andela who are doing this matchmaking for workforce between the Western markets and Africa. And then, smartphone penetration is accelerating. That's where the eyeballs will come from, and that's how it's relevant to this room. But also in there, we're getting very affordable smartphones. We're getting sub $50, high functionality smartphones. But now, with also innovative financing, paying via mobile money, getting the asset to be the collateral, customers can pay, as little as 30 pennies or 50 US cents a day, and have access to a smartphone with the lockout technology that, if the customer doesn't pay, it's pay as you go, then the phone doesn't work. So that's also ensure that there's good growth for the content, the social media applications, etc. But there are still barriers. This was a survey that was carried out in the 4 key markets in Africa, and you can see the biggest barriers are still the cost of data and the speed of internet. And of course, these bottlenecks are due to still early stages of the different infrastructure as well, which is growing, but there is much more further scope for that growth. But of course, globally, we know what's happening, with the apps revolution, and demand continues to grow. If you look at like YouTube, Instagram, over the last 10 years, the growth has been like more than 10x globally. And if we look into the future, we see annual compound annual growth of more than 25%, just continuing year on year. Although Africa, putting that into context, has exceeded that growth. Obviously, we're starting from a low base point, but compared to that 25% CAGR globally, we're looking at 37% in Africa, and then same with the change in data traffic, projected to be 7x in Africa compared to less than 4 in, for example, Europe. And of course, a lot of the consumption in Africa is coming with as much as 70% of the consumption coming through the mobile phone being the key device. And then, of course, there's further upside. If we look at the global internet penetration, it's like just short of 65%, whereas Africa is still close to 40%. So there's still more room for growth. If we look at the data consumption patterns, we are currently at just more than 2 gigs a month, projected to go to 9, which is where currently, for example, the global average is, which would then grow much further as well. So there's also scope for growth on that side. In Africa, of course, we've got growing infrastructure of roads, etc. But for us, the highway for this next century are actually the submarine cables, which connect us to rest of the world. I remember when I moved to Kenya in 2008, the international internet connectivity was only through VSAT, and it was just then when the first submarine cables came in. And over the last 15 years, that's really changed the shape of our continent and our country. If we look at the value chain, of course, I can't preach to the converted. The data center and the internet exchange points are absolutely key. With all the space, the power, the cooling that we provide, but no point having an orphaned data center. So of course, it's through partners like LINX that we get connected to the outside world. There are still challenges. Our bottlenecks, as I said earlier, has been the submarine capacity. And if we look at the growth that we've had, again, Africa has led in terms of that growth. Our peak utilization is also the highest, and typically you need to upgrade when you hit peak utilization of the 60% threshold. But also our costs have been quite high. It's a supply-demand factor. But the good news is that there's a real big step change. Initially it was the telcos who are investing in the submarine cables, but now we've got the big techs also come in with Equiano being live through Google, and Meta having made the big investment in the 2 Africa cable, which is also live. So that's also going to revolutionize things for us in the coming years. When we look at the internet exchange ecosystem, obviously Nairobi is there in the middle. We're still a drop in the ocean, literally, compared to where the development there is for the other internet exchange points. So again, a lot of scope for growth. And if we convert into numbers, we're only at about 14% of the total Africa population potential, or 10% of the internet users. So again, we see this early days of our partnership with LINX having huge scope for growth. In terms of other developments, the hyperscalers are also coming. We're bringing the cloud locally for latency reasons, but also data sovereignty, etc. We started with the on-ramps with the different tech cloud players. Of course, South Africa and West Africa are the early movers. South Africa is, of course, a much more advanced economy. I would say Kenya is probably 5-7 years behind where South Africa is. But we're still progressing. We've got the local zone now in Kenya, and then we're seeing the cloud regions already developed in South Africa. But they are coming in Nairobi. So, for example, Microsoft announced a $1 billion investment in Kenya, and I'll do a deep dive about the Kenya opportunity as well. And of course, North Africa, where we have a sister company called Maroc Data Center in Casablanca. So that's also a growing opportunity for Africa. And then there's other dynamism in the market. The large data center operators are already present. The likes of Digital Realty, Equinix, NTT. So again, as much as these operators are expanding with AI in the Western markets, Africa is also becoming more and more important for them. And then we see that trend continuing. So in summary, for Africa, we are a significant demographic profile, more than 1 billion population, but we're still well under in terms of the internet users. So a lot of scope for growth, and it's ironic that Africa makes up 12% of the global internet users, but only less than 1% of the data center capacity. So hence, people like IX Africa, we've taken the first mover advantage and are significantly investing in that market. And then, of course, to go with that, the ecosystem is still quite underdeveloped, so huge scope for growth, and also in terms of how we measure the data center activity and deployments, in terms of the power availability. There's vibrant activity of more than 200 megawatts currently in Africa. So just doing a deep dive on Kenya and why Kenya is attractive. So we are about 55 million population, probably similar to the UK. but of course a much larger country in terms of geography. We're on the equator and also in the middle. I literally like to think that we're center of the universe. But we have access. The other countries surrounding are less developed, including DRC, Ethiopia, Tanzania, Uganda. So we have a gateway to a more than 400 million population. We're quite advanced in terms of our data protection regulation, so we can have cross-border, which is actually mirrored on the GDPR regulation, so we can have cross-border exchange of data, and we're really trying to make Kenya the hub for the region. We are a growing digital ecosystem. I know many of the LINX members have been to Nairobi. We're dubbed the Silicon Savannah. So a lot of innovation happening. Of course, I've talked about mobile money and smartphones. We're the hub for many regional multinationals. And then also in terms of the growth opportunity, if you look at South Africa, it's currently deployment of around 400 megawatts. We're still less than 10 megawatts. So the scope for growth is quite significant. Something that I think many people are not aware of. Everyone knows us for our wildlife and tourism. But we are the 8th largest producer of geothermal energy behind Scandinavia and Iceland in the Rift Valley. And we have a lot of excess power, and that's why companies like Microsoft and Google and others are looking to make that a hub for the AI compute, for example. So that's also a big opportunity for us. And then we're quite advanced in terms of regulation, and then also in terms of connectivity. We have all these multiple submarine cables that are landing in Mombasa. So yeah, we are becoming the hub for the hyperscalers. And then in terms of cost of power, so 93% of our energy is renewable, which I think in many cases, many other Western countries, that's not the case. And in terms of the focus of ESG and being responsible companies, all these big techs are looking at Kenya for our renewable energy, but also our cost of power. If you compare to UK, Frankfurt, and other markets, we're still lower, and there's potential for that price to get even lower to less than 10 cents a kilowatt, and that's a reality that's going to happen very soon. This is just a snapshot of what I'm doing. So that's my office, my data center. So we're building a 22.5 megawatt facility close to the airport, of which the first 4.5 megawatts is live. We also have a teleport up front. You can see those the white spheres. Those are the SpaceX satellites, where the teleport for SpaceX, which is also Starlink, is getting very active and aggressive in Africa, and then they can also, through satellite, help solve a lot of the challenges that we have, say, for example, in terms of rural connectivity. And then this is our second site, which is about 30 kilometers from Nairobi, in a place called Limuru. That's where the tea estates are. It's quite high altitude. The other beauty about our country is, unlike here, we don't look at the weather. It's like 25 degrees all 365 days of the year. So very temperate climate, of course, great for using free air cooling as well. And this is our second site, where we're going to be doing more than 50 megawatts on an 11-acre piece of land. Of course, we're very responsible, sustainable company. Our partner for power is Schneider, and I'm really proud to say that the switchgear and the panels are actually manufactured locally in Kenya, actually in the Schneider factory next door to us, and we try to keep everything as local as possible. And finally, we're a bunch of experienced people in the industry. Our chairman and co-founder is Guy Wilner, who built some big data centers in UK and Europe and sold them to Equinix. He was behind setting up Terraco, has got a sizable business in Russia, and now the next frontier being Kenya. So that's my story. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
That's great, thanks. We got one question from Slido, so Lindsay.
Hello. Yeah. So we've got one question that says, what do you see as being the biggest challenge for the Kenyan interconnection market in the next 5 years?
Yeah. So of course there's a lot of opportunity, and in terms of interconnection, until LINX arrived, we had a monopoly in Kenya. The local internet exchange, which has been established for the last more than 10 years. Has got a lot of networks appearing with them, but they hadn't interconnected the different data centers, and sometimes being a monopoly, being very traditional, is not great. So thanks to LINX, we've now had competition and healthy competition. Will we have more than 2 exchanges in the market? That probably doesn't make sense. But having 2 vibrant exchanges, being innovative and pushing each other, it will be great for the market, great for the consumers. Of course, with LINX, we're all interconnected in the Nairobi metro. Of course, LINX has now opened in Mombasa, and where the submarine cables are landing, we have the content there. But of course, the eyeballs are in the major city metro, which is Nairobi. So we're also looking to see how we can work with internet exchanges to bring the content closer to where the eyeballs are. So I think that there's much more opportunity than challenges, and it's through competition that we can also solve some of these challenges. Thank you.
Any questions in the room? Yeah, we got 2 here at the front here.
Thank you. Nurani from LINX. So thank you, Snehar, for the presentation, and also congratulations on an amazing data center. I was there in the very early days when it was an empty shell, and it's been amazing to see its completion and to see it grow from there. My question was actually the opposite of the previous question, in that in Africa, there's a lot of talk of leapfrogging, and you can see that the development of the internet infrastructure and interconnection is taking different paths to other regions. And I think, for example, M-Pesa is a great example. You had mobile payment in, I think, 2007, way before we had that in Europe. So in terms of the interconnection landscape, just wanted to hear your thoughts on potential leapfrogging that you see happening in Africa. Do you see the other developments where things will happen faster in Africa compared to other regions, or where you see there's a need, for example, I don't know, for cloud or other services that will spur on the development?
Yeah, thanks for that question. In terms of interconnection and innovation, I think there's much better brains in this room than myself. I'm the first-time attendee at LINX. I attended the first peering forum last week with the LINX team in Cape Town. So yeah, in terms of innovation in interconnection and leapfrogging, I'm not sure how much on that specific area we can do differently compared to how it's already advanced in these markets. And at the moment what we're doing is playing catch up and actually benefiting from all the innovations here which are being deployed in our market. But in terms of the demand drivers for that interconnection, of course mobile money is one of them. I think the LEO, the satellite opportunity is great, and at the moment we're seeing a lot of frenzy in that space. In fact, we're getting a lot of people moving away from fiber to adopt the Starlink satellites, because it's literally plug and play. They're really aggressive in pricing. So again, I think that's great to shake up the market, because, for example, in Kenya, I think it's one of the unique countries where 90% of the telco market is controlled by one monopoly, which is Safaricom. And that's because of the stickiness that they've had with M-Pesa. But with like Starlink coming in and shaking up, so there's been in the last 3 months a lot of price declines, and that's also really helped in terms of the affordability and the internet adoption. So I think that's one area that will help. And then the other one is really in terms of the cloud adoption. Our enterprise market is still quite traditional, and it's in the last, I would say, 3 to 4 years post-COVID that we've seen the pace of digitalization, really pick up. So the government has just launched the e-health service, so they're digitalizing the whole the health ecosystem, linking the insurance providers and the hospitals, etc. So that's one example where government is actually taking the lead and setting an example, and that will also then have the domino effect as well. And lastly, as I mentioned earlier, it's the talent opportunity as well, because if Kenya becomes a strong, affordable BPO destination, with our language, with our time zones, with our connectivity, with the quality of talent, then that could also really spur the whole cloud demand.
Hi, Simon Lockhart. I'm on the LINX board and a couple of members. Whenever I look at the connectivity in Africa, everything's always talked about those submarine cables, and you can see them sort of hopping into each of the countries around the coastline. And equally, your market seemed to be very coastal or relatively close to the coastline. Is there equal amount of investment in terrestrial fibre backbone through Africa and to link the sort of less near to the coastline? And is there growth in sort of inwards into the country as well?
Yeah, so absolutely. So of course, the market has been kickstarted by the big investments, thanks to Meta and Google, etc., on the submarine side. But we have the regional and continental players, companies like WIOC, who started with bringing some of the submarine cables, but now they're building out the terrestrial network. Baobab, MTN is doing the same, Liquid as well. So 6 months ago, we also had Google announce the connectivity between South Africa and Australia with the Umoja cable, and then now the Liquid Telecom has already put in a terrestrial cable running from Mombasa, Nairobi, all the way down to South Africa. So yeah, there is a lot of investment happening in the terrestrial cables, and there's a lot of partnerships, for example, with the electricity grid company and the Kenya pipeline company, who have already done the wave leaves and laid the infrastructure, and they're leasing out like dark fiber. So absolutely, there is growing investment in that space.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, one more. Oh, we've got another question here. Yep.
Hello. I am Ralph from the Navas. My question was, you spoke about the beautiful investments in Africa, and I'm more so curious if any part of that also goes towards the education in university, high school, to be able to not only promote the internet into Africa, but also the safety of it. And so people in those positions, in those schools, are able to do this themselves or grow this themselves or keep it safe themselves. Is there any part of the investment that goes towards the education of the African communities that you guys are growing in? So
the simple answer, unfortunately, is no. And that's why, as I said, with my other hat, I run an edtech called Moringa School. And in our part of the world, the university model is broken. They're teaching like syllabus, etc., which is very traditional, like 20 years old. And these universities are not well funded, dysfunctional. So, for example, we run a bootcamp model, and we do it over 6 months, full time. We train software developers, data scientists, and before COVID, it was all physical. During COVID, we pivoted the company. Now 80% of our students are studying online, but live learning. And I employ, for example, 150 trainers. We've so far graduated about 15,000 software developers, data scientists, and then we go the extra step to actually place them into jobs. And then there's a growing trend of, so currently about 22% of my graduates are working in Kenya remotely for global companies earning in hard currency dollars. And you can imagine if we extrapolate that, how much impact that can have on the GDP. There are, some of the big techs. They're providing this kind of training, but unfortunately, what we're seeing is, they go after big numbers. They say, we're going to train like 1 million people on these skills, but it's all about box ticking rather than focusing on quality. So we would like to see all this investment, being done in the right way. Work with the capable local partners, but go for meaningful and quality training. And of course, as part of that, we hope the safety aspects can be taken care of.
Oh, sorry, one more question as well, please.
Yes. Filiz Yilmaz from Economics, and thank you, Snehar, for the presentation. My question is not for you, it's just a comment for the question coming from Lagos, from Ralph, was it, over there? Hi. Just a remark, one of the capacity building exercises that I'm aware of is Giga Project in Africa, and maybe you know that one as well. It's a UN motivated and funded project, and this is working with the local partners to connect every school through an ISP. So if you Google about that, you will find out, and they are looking out for local partners, also international and global partners, to help them out to make it more agile and more disseminated within the continent. Thank you.
Thank you, Yilmaz. Thank you.
That's great. Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Brilliant. Thank you, Snehar. Thank you. Yeah.